Oh, we have a problem here. We're going to shut this down right now and start again. We got a problem there. All right. Hello and welcome to another Smaulgld live stream. Tonight is Saturday, the 23rd of February 2019, and tonight is Saturday Night Silver with Smaulgld. But tonight we have a special guest, Salivate Metal. So tonight is Saturday Night Silver with Smaulgld and Salivate Metal. So greetings to the Smaulgld mug stackers and grain changers, and greetings one and all to members of the Salivation Nation. So Salivate Metal, I understand, Sal, that you are going to be under oath tonight. So
I will.
Before we get started, I would like to swear you in.
Sounds great. I'm ready for the swearing in ceremony, sir.
Okay. Salivate Metal?
Yes.
Do you swear to tell the truth?
I swear to tell the truth, but I will not curse.
The whole truth?
The whole truth.
And nothing but the truth?
Nothing but the truth, not even a white lie.
So help you God?
So help me God.
Well then, greetings and welcome to the Smaulgld channel tonight. Good to have you, Sal. Well, we're going to get started tonight. And what we normally do on Smaulgld Saturday Night Silver, we check the prices, we take a look at the COMEX hordes, and then we get right into the topic of the evening. So let's take a look, Sal. You know, we've had some movement in the price recently. We want to put all in perspective. We take a look at the silver price, and we can't say that we're really moving forward, but we're not moving backwards, and that's a good thing. Let's take a look at the silver price, the 1 year silver price. Sal, I want to get your thoughts on this here. Here we go. We're still under $16. We've bounced off that December low. Where do you see it heading the next couple of months? Do you think we'll get back to at least the highs of last spring?
I think it's quite possible. I'm famous for my predictions not coming true. Last year I thought for sure we would be getting, by the end of 2018, I thought we were going to get to close to, not exactly two, but right up to $20 per ounce. And this year I'm not going to be quite as bold in my prediction, but I do think we're going to see it round back up, at least to where it was there on the chart. You see it kind of hovering around that high $16, $17, and I think it's going to go up possibly to around $17. But that's just a hunch and a feeling.
And you're under oath. Remember that.
Yes, I'm under oath, which means it's a hunch or a feeling, which means I'm expressing my truthful thoughts, which, by the way, could very well be wrong.
Okay. Now, the next thing I want to talk to you about, Sal, is we have seen this before, where the U.S. Mint runs out of Silver Eagles. We saw it back in 2009. We saw it in 2015. We saw it, I think, last year for a little bit of a spell. And now we're seeing it very early in the year. And they're saying that U.S. Silver Eagle coins are sold out at the Mint. It's only the 6th, 7th week into it. And let me just show you before I get your thoughts on this. I know you covered this on your channel, but this year has not been that robust of a year so far. So let's just take a look back at prior years. Now, 2015, you can understand how the U.S. Mint could run out of silver.
Yes.
It was a huge year. You had 47 million being sold. They ran out in September. That's when the Perth Mint came out with the Australian Silver Eagle to meet demand. The Canadian Mint had run out. But if you look what's happened since then, we've got a decline in the demand for Silver Eagles. You had 18 million in 2017, 15 million last year, and then this year started off okay. We're going to take a look quickly here, Sal. If you see here, we sold 4 million in January. Now, that's not bad. It's certainly better than 2009-10, but still not at the running at full capacity like we were in 2013. when we sold 7.5 million in the month of January. Now, February, the preliminary numbers are, and they've stopped now because they're not selling anymore. They were only at 2,057,000. So what is causing this breakdown in the ability of the U.S. Mint to service demand?
Yeah, so that's a total of about 6 million ounces. And actually, a viewer of mine, Silver Wolverine, posted that in the comments. And so looking at that, so that's this up to this year's. And then last year's, you saying at this time was about 7 million, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So my feeling is I kind of agree with James Anderson about his thoughts is that what's happening is with all of the sourcing out the planchets, and a lot of times there's a bottleneck sometimes in the demand and production. And since some of these other mints are basically, silver bullion companies / you have the Northwest Territorial Mints that are gone out of business. You've got Elemental and others. I guess Republic Metals is a big one now. And because of that, places like Silvertown and Sunshine Mint. Sunshine Mint is the main producer of the planchets for the United States Mint. But I didn't realize this, but there are others as well. But I don't know who some of those others are.
Yes, and there are 3 of them, and Sunshine Minting is one of them. That's the only one I'm aware of. And Silver Doctors did do an interview with them, and they're one of the main suppliers of those silver blanks. We don't know who the other 2, and it's possible, as you're saying, that maybe Elemental or one of the other mints that's gone out of business were the other suppliers. Is that what you're saying?
No. But what I'm saying is that even if the other companies were not the suppliers, because they produce bullion product. In other words, silver bullion product, if they're out of business, that means that demand is going to increase.
Oh, right.
Silvertown and Sunshine Minting. And so because of that, they are getting behind in production. It's not because of a shortage of silver. It's just because of a bottleneck in production. And that's what I'm theorizing is probably what's happening. And basically, that's kind of what I think that's what Silver Doctors was implying as well.
Now, there could be a problem. Now, I know in 2015, when they interviewed Sunshine Minting and they disclosed that they were one of the main suppliers to the U.S. Mint, was that their own minting had been put on hold. So if you wanted to buy Sunshine Minting rounds, they weren't supplying those at all, their own privately labeled rounds, because they were busy trying to make the planchets for the United States Mint. This is an important point for everyone, is the United States Mint, you would think, would have the capacity to mint silver coins, and instead they outsource it to 3 different companies to get the blanks, and then the U.S. Mint just stamps those blanks with the American Silver Eagle on the back and the Lady Liberty on the front. And that's probably the reason, as you say, that there is a shortage. But unfortunately, this shouldn't happen because the demand isn't that high. And imagine if there had been real demand, there'd be no way that a small mint, Sunshine Minting can't be that significant to be able to supply all these blanks if demand creeps up again, and they're perhaps one of the only ones left that's going to produce the mint. So, Sal, where do you see this ending up? Do you think they'll be able to get back into production? And if this carries on, do you think this will create a situation where people, no matter what you and I say, there are people who are going to think, this is a silver shortage, and they're going to go out and buy American Silver Eagles and probably exasperate the issue and create greater demand?
Yeah, and I think that, and in some cases, they may have a very good reason to do so, only because of the potential numismatic possibilities that could be at play for such a shortage of eagles. Now, I don't think we're going to see a situation. I mentioned in my video, I go back to the chart that they show, which, by the way, that's one thing about the Smaulgld channel. The charts and graphs that you compile are so much easier to read than the other stuff. The one that Silver Doctor showed was a little bit more difficult to kind of disseminate, but you could look back. 96 was that was the year of that was the least amount minted, and there's somewhat of a numismatic premium to those for that year. But nonetheless, oops, I said I wasn't going to use that word, and I just did it. I apologize. That's one strike against me.
That is definitely one strike against you, Sal.
Dang it. Anyways, so possibly there might be that kind of situation. 2019, there's can't get them, anything. I think there's a psychology to it that is sort of independent of silver prices per se, but just the fact that eagles are so popular. And so if they're not in stock, people want them, then that's going to create a demand, a potential numismatic demand, even if it's not really perceived as being, and even if there's not much reality behind it. Let's say there's, a mintage of, I don't know, 14 million or 13 million or whatever, what have you, by the end of the year. It's the here and now and the potential for it to possibly be something of value in the immediate, as opposed to the long term, as far as just the numismatic aspect of it. But regardless, I think that if what's going to probably happen is if we see that hole not being filled in with a supplier that could come in and make it happen. So Valcambi has purchased Republic Metals, and if they make it really better and are able to supply blanks as well to the mint, then problem solved. But if there's going to be this continued problem year after year, well, then we may have government creating blanks for the government, for the U.S. Mint. The U.S. Mint may actually have to get into the blank producing enterprise, as they do. I think they do that with I'm not sure if they make their own blank gold or not, or if they outsource that either. I'm not sure.
Not sure. I know that the Perth Mint, they do produce, not only do they refine silver and gold at their mint, they also produce the blanks, and that's why they were able to help alleviate the coin shortage in 2015 by introducing that Australian silver kangaroo, because they had the ability to do that. I want to get your thoughts now on this, because what we're looking at now is silver demand by sector in 2006, and you can see that silver coins and bars only reflected 5.2% of the overall silver demand, and the rest of the demand profile was industry and silver. Now let's take a look at that record year 2015 though, Sal, and you're going to see quite a dramatic difference in 2015. And in 2015, because of the big massive increase that we saw in the prior chart, where the U.S. Mint sold 47 million American Silver Eagles, the Canadian Mint sold about 40 million, all the sovereign mints had record years that year. India imported about 250 million ounces of silver. It was a big year all around. And then, but look what happens to silver coin and bar demand. It skyrockets to almost a quarter of overall demand. And I think that's where you start to put pressure on the overall supply. But let's look now at where it is as of last year. It's been cut in half again. Now, my point here, Sal, I want to get your thoughts on this, is that is the portion of silver demand that is not constant. That is the portion that actually can really impact the overall demand if you get even just a slight increase or a doubling of that, which is quite possible, because last year you would have 15 million American Silver Eagles sold. That can easily double to 30 if they can supply it. But if they can supply it, do you think there'll be silver demand for other products outside of the U.S. Mint?
Well, you can see here silver jewelry. I was looking at that as well. The first one was still about a quarter from 2006 as well, right? What was silverware and jewelry in 2006? Was it about a quarter?
Yes, that's remained relatively constant, and that's mostly because of Indian silverware demand constitutes about 70% of overall silverware demand globally.
Yeah, so that's been kind of the one thing that's been pretty constant as a percentage. And but yeah, I do believe that you're going to see, if there's an increased demand, then yeah, it's gonna definitely have an effect. I mean, 2015, you got to think about it. That was really just after the prices really started to kind of really bottom out there, after the big rise in 2011, which we know was an anomaly and not the standard. It wasn't where it was. Many people thought in 2011, oh boy, this is just the beginning. It's going to go up even higher and higher. And myself included, by the way, in 2013, I posted my largest silver my largest unboxing ever of silver and gold together. And because I was thinking, oh man, the prices are low, are dropping a bit, and it's just a small little dip before it really goes up and explodes. It didn't happen, and now you see where we're at. And so in 2015, you can see there, and even sovereign nations such as India that you're showing there. Look at 2015's numbers. I mean, it's so everybody was kind of thinking the same thing. Let's stockpile on silver, and then as time went on, people realized, you know what, let's just hold back a little bit. And so people weren't, there's something to this thing about buying high and selling low, and I think that's happening to a point today. Although in 2015, people thought, okay, the prices are low, let's grab a bunch because we know we're just around the corner to when it's going to go up again. There's two ways to look at it. Many people and sovereign entities purchased all this silver in 2015. And so they thought, okay, I have enough. I've made my purchase. The price is low. And then when the prices started dropping, I don't need any more, because what if it goes down even more? They didn't want it. They were scared. There's probably an acronym for it, just like FOMO, fear of missing out, HODL. What's the other one? There's a couple of those things. There's got to be one for this one. But so that's kind of what I'm thinking. Does that make sense?
It sure does. Now, if you notice, I don't have them side by side, but one of the things that the Indians do with silver and gold is when the price drops, they definitely pile on. And that was this sense that Americans had when they were buying American Silver Eagles. You can see they weren't really buying a lot right after the financial crisis. They really started to buy, if you look, after the price dropped in 2014 and 15. That's when they really ramped up into the 40 million range. And then I think they had somewhat maybe buyer exhaustion when the price didn't keep going up. But as the price fell, you can see the demand fell as well. Whereas if you go back to India, you see the exact opposite. Indians seem to buy when the price is low, and that explains that 2015 spike there. That was the lowest price of silver in the last few years there. And then 2016 is when silver did spike up to $20 an ounce, if you recall, and you see the Indians put the brakes on. 2018, we revisited those lows again, and boom, they were right back in there. So Americans tend to, as you say, fear of missing out. If the silver price starts to move up, you will start to see, I think, people piling in and saying, I got to get into this. And I think it's going to happen only because, well, not only because, but one of the reasons is that silver has been down for so long that investors are always looking for, at some point after they've been making money on assets that have been rising 7 or 8 years, they have to rotate into something. And we're starting to see some of that rotation into gold. And the other thing is, when they rotate, though, into silver, unfortunately, for a lot of people, that means this: ETFs.
Yes.
And you can see here the demand for ETFs. These supposedly, the chart that you're looking at indicates how many millions of ounces are in these ETFs. And you can see the SLV has about 300 million ounces of silver in it. And altogether, if you add up all the other ETFs, you're looking at about 550 million ounces of silver locked into ETFs. What is your view on using ETFs to get exposure to silver?
Well, I'm not against. I mean, obviously, there's the old saying, if you don't hold it, you don't own it. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I do think it's beneficial, and people can use ETFs to their advantage to hedge with silver prices. Most people, by the way, that do that don't actually cash out for silver. They will cash those out with cash. Hence, it's never really tested to see the perceived and well, I believe there's some real manipulation there, but also I think it's over dramatized by some what are known as pumpers out there. But nonetheless, there's nothing against it, because gold and silver, electronic gold and silver, are seen as hedges. And so a lot of the players in the market, stock market, they just do that. They just use those. And but it would be interesting to see it tested, but I don't think we will ever see the paper markets and the electronic markets tested via the physical. There's probably almost impossible to do, I would suspect. But I wanted to real quickly, I wanted to ask you about, because India is such a unique market. So when you talk about Indian silver imports, are you referring to sovereign national to a reserve bank, or are you talking about the citizens and the population? Because I'm curious to see what those numbers are for silver. I don't know what they would be for gold, but India, obviously, it's part of their culture. So more Indians hold gold than any other nation on earth, as far as the populace is concerned.
Yeah, that's a very important question. A lot of people get confused on that when they say Russia is buying gold or China is buying gold. Generally, when we talk about Russia buying gold or China buying gold, we're talking about the central banks. And central banks are obviously discretely distinct from what the individuals in the countries buy. So, for example, in India, the Indian people and the Indian temples are estimated to hold about 22,000 tons of gold. However, the Indian Central Bank, let me show you the Indian Central Bank itself, the Reserve Bank of India, only has 580 tons.
Okay.
So it's very important that a lot of people get excited about what central banks are doing, but they're not really the main holders of gold. Now, silver, I'm not aware of any central bank that holds silver for its
I don't think so either. Yeah.
as a reserve asset. Now, they do hold gold as a reserve asset, and you're looking at a chart here that shows up to date. Well, not up to date because I haven't up to date Russia, but it shows what the central banks have in gold as a reserve asset. However, China, as you saw in that chart there, only lists about 1,850 tons of gold. However, we do know, like India, there's about 20,000 tons of gold in that country. And how do we know that? Well, we know what the import numbers are into China. We know what the Chinese mining is, and we know how much trades on the Shanghai Gold Exchange. And you can pretty much add up all that gold over the last 20 years and get to a number around 20,000 tons, and yet the People's Bank of China only shows 1,850 tons. That doesn't mean they're lying. It just means the gold is not with the central bank. Just like in India, that 580 tons does not reflect all of the gold that's in India. And it's the same with so when I give Indian import numbers for gold and silver, I'm talking about the amount of precious metals that flow into the country for purposes of giving it to the people so they can make jewelry out of it, they can trade it. That's not going to the government.
And those numbers are tracked through export data, right?
That's right. That's right. And actually, the Indian silver import numbers that I get through Nick Laird, who gets them directly from the Indian Ministry of Imports and Exports, and they know how much comes in. And the reason they have the import tax on gold is because in many years, the dollar value or the rupee value of imports of gold can exceed 10% of overall imports, and that screws up their balance of trade. That's why India is always trying to stop Indians from, and it's hard to do, it's hard to break a 5,000-year tradition, trying to wean them off gold because they have to import their gold. They don't have domestic gold mining, and they don't have that much domestic silver mining either.
Right.
All right, so we just saw that ETFs have about 550 million ounces, assuming they have that silver. I mean, you can never verify that. That is one place where there's a lot of silver. Another place where there's a lot of silver, and there's some confusion about trading of silver on the COMEX, is at the COMEX approved depositories, of which the largest are, we're going to take a look at them, JP Morgan and Brinks. Now, supposedly, at the COMEX, there's about 300 million ounces just of eligible silver. Are you familiar with the concept of eligible silver, registered silver at the COMEX?
I saw it, Smaulgld. I went yesterday and checked it out. I didn't go to a gig last night. I went to the COMEX and looked at all the silver.
And you checked it all out? And
I saw all the physical inventories. It's pretty cool.
And you swear to that?
I swear. No. I swear.
Okay.
No, everybody knows I'm just kidding, teasing.
Well, for those members of the Salivation Nation. Okay, so we say that there's 300 million ounces. We have that on good authority from Salivate Metal here. That's supposedly in those vaults. Now, when they trade on the COMEX, they don't necessarily, in most cases, settle the contracts in physical. The people are there, they trade. Let me just show you something before we look at JP Morgan and Brinks, which are the two largest. This is generally how the price of silver gets sorted out. You have essentially about 70, 80 very large traders. They're called commercials, non-commercials. Commercials are the bullion banks. They're represented in red, and they take long and short positions. And in many instances, these people don't know what they know what they're doing, but they're not interested in silver as such the way you are. They don't do unboxings. They don't stack. They don't look at silver. And indeed, some of them, I saw in an interview when they were talking to gold traders, some of them have never even seen physical gold. That's how far detached these people are from trading. But this is what you see here is the type of yin-yang that goes on between trading. But they're trading over that pile of gold, that 300 million ounces that is supposedly in those vaults. Now, that is what drives the price of silver. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean it's something the detachment and I think a lot of it not being verified, or if it is verifiable, it obviously technically it really could be verified if people are going to take the time and energy to do it. Because of that detachment, it's very tempting for there to be a lot more of those contracts out there than there is for the physical. And we've seen them before, and the thing is people don't realize is that even the gold standard and has been abused in the past. I mean, it's the I think it's the amount of what is perceived to be on the ground as opposed to what's actually there and not really testing it. And these people don't have holdings of it. I don't know. And it makes you understand why people would question it. And there's nothing wrong with questioning. I think it's people obviously question whether or not we have all of the gold at Fort Knox. I believe we do have it, but it's understandable if it's not able to be seen, or if it's not able to really be tested or shown. So I don't know. What are your thoughts? What do you think? You think that's...
I think that the only people who care about it are people who care about it, and they're not the people who are trading the silver because they don't care about it. They're there to trade for price.
That's right.
They don't want the physical delivery. And I think that's really what the issue is. For most people, they are focused on fiat profits, and you can't blame them because the bank runs on fiat. It doesn't run on silver, and the traders are there to make as much fiat profit as they possibly can. They don't even second guess whether there's silver there or not because it doesn't matter to them as long as their trade gets filled and they get the price and they get the profit and they carry on. And that enables them, if they want to just continue trading, and they really don't care and they'll never stand for delivery. I think that's one of the false hopes that a lot of people have.
That's right.
Some trader's going to stand for delivery. They're not. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that reminded me of a real world scenario where that was played out of a friend of mine at work who asked me about investing in these paper markets, and they were like, "Well, I want to buy gold and silver, but I want to do it." And I told this person, it's like, you can do that, but you might want to check into how to take physical delivery if you wanted to cash out. And they told me, they said, well, I would probably just sell it and get the cash. So really that's the thing. It's when you never have any interaction with the, you can buy something. I mean, if somebody buys a share of Apple stock, when they buy that share of Apple stock, when they go to cash out the share of it, how much of an iPad is that going to be? You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. Typically, they don't cash out for an Apple product, or they're cashing out for cash, and that is sort of what holds, I think, a lot of this, especially for those of us that do believe in the hard assets. Gold and silver have been money for, well, I know there's somewhat of a disagreement with you on that, but
no, we don't disagree on the fact. I mean, gold and silver have been money for 5,000 years. There's absolutely no doubt about that. Just as horses were transportation for 5,000 years, no doubt about that. My only point about gold and silver today is I call them dormant money because they're not used as a medium of exchange. They could be, and that's going to lead into our next topic about constitutional silver, is that if the gold and silver are not used, can be, but aren't, historically have been, then they're not currently, in my mind, money. They're a valuable asset. Just like a horse is transportation and was the means of transportation for 5,000 years. But today, horses are not. You can use them for transportation, but they're not the primary means of transportation. Mostly people have horses as pets or to go around in circles and to bet on them. Now, you could, in a power down or some scenario where the grid is down, you could ride a horse from Boston to New York. But that's not your preferred means, just as you could transact in gold and silver, but people don't. They use digital dollars. And so that's my point.
I would probably make the distinction there that it's not used as a currency.
Correct. Well, that's one of your elements of money. That's right. As a medium of exchange. If it doesn't meet that test, then I say it's dormant. To me, it's a semantic argument. I had this debate with David Morgan, if you remember.
Yes.
He was citing laws, and I was just telling him that people don't use it as currency. But let's get back to using silver as currency, because I believe that silver is the best form of physical money. It's far better than gold because it's in small amounts. And we were talking in the pre-show about silver dimes, quarters, and half dollars. And we're talking about some of the advantages of silver dimes. Can you want to recap what we discussed?
Yeah, essentially, for all intents and purposes, fractional silver bullion is very expensive. The premium, because what it takes to make a silver round, the time and energy it takes to create that. In order for bullion dealers or manufacturers of these mints to make any money off of them, they have to charge a premium. That premium is passed on to you and I so the mints can make a profit. And so that's why, by and large, it's not really practical if you're a stacker to purchase fractional silver. Whereas a constitutional situation where you have, your half dollars, your quarters, and dimes are the best way to acquire silver with a very small premium, and especially dimes. Some local coin shops out there will charge you more for half dollars in some cases, depending on mine does not actually, but some will. So like what you see before you here, there's a Winged Liberty dime. Beautiful coin. It is absolutely recognizable, and I think that's the best way to acquire fractional silver is the Winged Liberty dime. In a call situation like this where sort of worn, you're going to pay only a percentage, or basically these are priced per dollar. So if it's $14 per dollar or what have you, it's $1.40 for that dime. And it's recognizable even more so, I think, if you want to go down into the nitty gritty than the Roosevelt dime, because the Roosevelt dime, you have to either look at the date or be aware of the color differential, or look at the edge to see that there's no clad sandwiched later in there. But yes, it's definitely a great way. And if we were able, if I actually posted a video series called SHTF and Silver. And now, obviously, in that series, I was made very abundantly clear that in an immediate SHTF scenario, which, by the way, doesn't necessarily have to do with government or politics, it could be a regional situation that has separated people for a long period of time. And what are they going to be doing? They're going to be trading food, water, and just to get. But once a community forms or local governments form, well, what's the most fungible asset? Probably going to be constitutional silver.
No, absolutely. That's my point about silver, it being dormant money, is that in that potential scenario, that constitutional silver will be the most recognizable. And as you mentioned, those dimes are the perfect barter item, because not only can you acquire them at a far better premium than you can if you were to buy 1/10 ounce silver rounds. People are going to say, what is this? So it's 1/10 of an ounce of silver. They'll at least recognize, they won't know if it's real or not, but they'll be able to recognize U.S. dimes that are 90% silver, and they'll be worth something. Now, what we're looking at here, who's going to know what this is? Do you know what that is that we're looking at there, Sal?
Yeah, peace. I mean, I know what it is, but, I don't know. Maybe some people won't. Peace
Yeah,
dollar. Yeah.
and that peace dollar is going to cost you a much higher premium
Yeah.
than the silver dimes, and I suppose there's a numismatic value on that guy there. But the silver dimes, I think, are probably the best bargain out there. And I know that Silver Doctors had done a top 10 silver sales that they have by product at the SD Bullion. And number one was, if I recall correctly, the American Silver Eagle, then the Canadians, and they went down to, and Constitutional Silver was like 7 or 8. It wasn't that high. And I'm surprised at the case because they do have very low premiums, and I think they're probably the best thing to use in a barter situation.
Yes. Yes, I agree. I think that's going to be the infants, I guess the beginnings of a new exchange system. I think that'll be the low hanging fruit in terms of reconstituting a monetary system. Of course, many states we've seen since the 2005, 2006, all the way up through 2014, 15, 16, 17, more and more states are allowing legal silver to be used as legal tender.
Right.
And gold. Yeah.
Well, I know tonight is Saturday Night Silver with Smaulgld and Sal, but we did have a lot of interest from people in platinum and palladium, and I know you did a recent blog post, not blog post, but a YouTube video on that. Can you share what you found when you looked into platinum and palladium, and why you think platinum may be the dark horse here?
Well, and I think a lot of it, platinum and palladium, are what I refer to as fringe precious metals. And I didn't actually mention that in that video, but I did a series on called Why I Love, and ... fill in the blank. And it's all about metal. It's not about anything else, just so you guys know. But platinum and palladium, platinum is the closest to money of the platinum group metals out there. That's number one. I really didn't cover that in that video, but I basically looked at the industrial applications and look at those metals as potential investments as opposed to hedges. And the volatility of both those metals are quite extreme, but especially palladium. Palladium is now over $1,500 an ounce right now, and is being used in the catalytic conversion processes for the automotive industry. And platinum can be used as well, and it's just a matter of retooling for that aspect. Now we can go. We've talked about in that video about electric vehicles and the like, and which will basically negate the use of platinum and palladium for catalytic conversion. But nonetheless, regardless, instead of saying nonetheless, which I just did again. Sorry.
Hey, you swore not to say nonetheless.
Yeah, second strike against me there. Apologize. Yeah. So with platinum now being able to be retooled, and that's the question. No one's really been able to talk about retooling the processes to use platinum as opposed to palladium. But I think sooner or later there's going to be a time where the price is going to be so vast between the two metals that it's going to be worth it to retool the facilities to use platinum. And I think that will happen because I think palladium is rarer than platinum. And so I think that being the case is going to be probably easier to get, but who knows? I mean, that all depends on South Africa and Siberia and Russia. Right. Those are the two places that produce it the most.
Now, before I let you go, you mentioned electric vehicles. Now, that would be perhaps not a good thing for the platinum palladium, but that would be potentially something very good for silver and copper. I understand there's a lot of silver and copper used in those. And what do you think about this Alexandre Ocasio-Cortez new green deal? I did a video on it called the new silver deal because I don't expect that plan that she outlined to get endorsed lock, stock, and barrel, and within 10 years we've gone totally green. But I do expect there to be some type of movement towards trying to reduce carbon emissions and all that kind of stuff. And that would mean some increase in the sustainable things like solar, electric cars, and so on. What do you think that might do to the demand for silver?
Well, as you know, silver never doesn't just go away. People say, oh, it's discarded. Silver's never discarded. Yes, it may be put in landfills, but people know where it is. I posted a video a while back about how silver can be harvested from sewer water. So when you wash your clothes, any silver that's in, because sometimes silver is being used for antimicrobial to prevent odors in socks and things like that. Well, those little silver fibers, they go into the wastewater of your washing machine. And there's a university that has developed a way to be able to recycle silver. Is it economically viable? Not right now, because the silver price is so low. But going back to your original thing about the Alexandria Cortex, or whatever her name is, I can never remember her name. But anyways, what she is proposing is a big government progressive solution. But I think most everybody that's watching this right now, all of us, we are for alternative energy. And but we are for it in a utilization of making it viable and technology. And that's where solar has really come down in price. From 2009 to 2015, installation costs for solar in homes has decreased by half. But that's just the regular that's a free market system working. In other words, they found ways to produce it for less money. The largest producers of solar panels come from China and Germany. There's also the U.S. is also a major supplier, but the cost and the technology to produce them has become efficient enough that they're able to produce them. And what happens is when you buy the solar panels, I made 2 purchases of panels. One in 2015, I actually documented it on my channel, and then later on, the couple of other replacement panels, and the prices come down even since then, and the panels are more efficient. And
they also use less silver through a process called thrifting.
That's right. They also thrift with less silver. But the thing is when you have to take into account that thrifting versus the number of other businesses and homes getting solar. And I think that because of that, the increased silver demand will outweigh the thrifting. So that silver is basically sitting on your roof. And it's going to stay there as long as you have those panels. And so when that happens, until it's replaced by something with newer panels with less silver, and those are recycled, which, by the way, I think I haven't posted a video. I took an old panel and tried to recycle the silver out of it. Very difficult to do on your own. It's got to be processed somewhere else. But unless it's replaced by graphene or aluminum, which aluminum is not going to be the best substitute. But I think if silver prices were to skyrocket, they may use aluminum or graphene. But graphene, I think we're quite a ways away before graphene is mass produced enough. But nonetheless, but regardless, silver.
Nonetheless,
silver. Strike 3. Oops, I'm out. I guess that's a hit for the end now. But that is. But it's a free market. The point is the free market is conducive to this type of stuff. And the free market and clean energy, who doesn't want clean energy? My home is powered with 0 carbon emissions. 100% of my electricity comes from solar. And it's a win-win. In fact, I even make a little bit of money on the solar panels because I sell excess power back to the grid.
Now let's get back from that's very good. If you get back from or Cortez's Green New Deal, forget that for now. But California actually does have a law in place that requires. I just had it up on the screen. In 2020, all new construction in California will have to be equipped with solar panels. Now that will have. I haven't been able to calculate, and it's a difficult calculation to do. At first, I have to figure out how many new homes and buildings are going to be constructed in a given year after 2020, and then how much
right.
solar will be in it. But I do think that will be a relatively substantial amount of silver just on that. All right, let's
Well,
switch.
you have to keep in mind, and again, I haven't seen the final legislation, but it is by 2020 new home construction over a certain amount of square feet. So in other words, smaller
Right.
homes won't require it.
Right, so you'll have to. That's you just don't know how many of those homes will fit that size, and you know it's going to happen. That's going to force builders to start to rethink. Well, we'll just have to make these homes 20% smaller so that they don't fit under the requirement.
Right.
All right. Before we go, I want two questions for you. One is the Salivate metal rounds. I believe you've gone back into the business, and I know it's not a business, it's more of a labor of love, in producing the Salivate metal rounds. Can you talk about those for a second?
Yeah, well, actually, there's actually three aspects of it. The original Salivate metal round, which you see on my channel icon, is currently unavailable from the Quality Silver Bullion. We're actually in discussions with them on how to continue production of those for a while, but it's very difficult for them to do that because it's extra thick. I was a difficult customer there, but so that since that is being paused since then, as part of this thing with the poured silver, there's a place called MK Bars that is actually creating channel bars from multiple YouTube channels out there, I being one of them. And so there's these little antiqued 1 ounce silver thick poured bullion rounds out there, or poured silver rounds. And they're pretty neat. Yeah, it's kind of a neat. So that sort of replaced that. Now, obviously, just with anything, anything poured silver, typically because it's hand manufactured, there's a bit of a premium tied to it. But so those are the two aspects of that particular round right now, of 1 ounce size. But I've also have a 2 ounce size round that was done through Intaglio mint, and it's a struck piece, and it's very intricately detailed, and that's available through Intaglio mint. But yeah, it's pretty cool, and yeah, you're right. There are more labors of love, because by the time you pay for the die fees for a struck piece, by the time you sell them, you'll be lucky to get any money back out of it. And that's but I just thought it'd be kind of cool to have something like that. And but with the poured silver, I'm making a bunch of money off of that. I mean, by the time we sell all these, I'm going to be able to buy 2 kilos of gold.
Excellent.
I mean, yeah.
Remember, you're under oath.
I'm under oath. Yeah. No, I'm just teasing, guys.
All right.
Yeah,
so would you be willing to stay for about 10 minutes to answer some questions that the audience may have of you?
Sure. But before we take questions,
yes.
I also should note, I don't have one of your mugs, but you have, I don't have one of my own mugs either, but the Mug Nation is something for those interested. Smaulgld has his own mugs in various different forms. There's glass, there's beer stein, there's mugs, and you can use those mugs. This is one of the most versatile things out there from what I understand.
Well, yeah, I'm going to leave a link here. I have 18 reasons why you should buy and hoard mugs, and I actually believe mugs are real wealth. Mugs won't go to zero. So I'll leave you the link there in the description. You can check that out. I won't play it for you. I'll play it when we leave. You want to stay and listen to 18 reasons why you should buy and hoard mugs. Stay once we sign off and you'll hear that. All right. Now, before we take questions, if you want to put a question for Sal in the comments, just put the 3 asterisk and then put Smaulgld in there so I see it, and we'll ask Sal those questions. But before we do that, Sal, I'm looking at a chart here on APMEX Silver Eagle premiums, and if you go to the far left, you can see in 2015 how Silver Eagle premiums reached 50%, and it would have been a big mistake for anyone to have bought Silver Eagles that year at the 50% premium. You'd have been far better off buying other coins, rounds, and bars if they were available, because the price of silver did not rise in 2015, and people mistook the unavailability of Silver Eagles for a silver shortage. And I see some channels out there today doing that. Silver shortage, silver shortage. Right. It's not. It's just like when you're at a barbecue and they run out of patties because they haven't been made into patties. It doesn't mean there's a beef shortage. It just means that there's not patties available to make into hamburgers right now. Right now, there's a planchet shortage at the U.S. Mint. There is not a silver shortage. So I would advise people, this isn't investment advice, don't get carried away that there's a silver shortage and start to pay premiums on American Silver Eagles. If you think, and no one has any way of knowing that maybe there is a silver shortage, well, then you buy silver. You don't buy the Silver Eagles.
That's right.
You buy what has a lower premium. Does that make sense?
And I would even caution people not to do it for numismatic reasons either, because, we're not going to get back to the 96.
We're already past that. It was 3.4 million in 96.
Right, exactly. So we're already well past that, almost double, so yeah.
All right. Well, let's see what questions we have. But this is an important chart. You can notice, I started following it, expecting this, and then you can see when I started the chart to the left, and then boom, up it went, because I saw that coming. And you can see at times, also, and just another tip, don't buy current year Silver Eagles at the end of the year, because that's when the premiums also rise, because that's when they run out, and dealers are trying to buy, they're preparing. They don't buy any more of that year's amount because they're preparing for the next year. You can see it happens every year. At the end of the year, the price rises, the premium rises, and then falls. Because if you want current year Silver Eagles, buy them early in the year when the premiums are lower. Now, that doesn't apply this year because it's early in the year and they're not available.
Right.
So let's take a look if we've got any questions over here. And so you could just jump in if there's any questions.
Joe Lazaro says, do you have an exit strategy if silver has a big pump like in 2011? I see 2011 as an anomaly. And if silver were to get that high again, I may actually try to convert some of it to gold, actually. Because more likely, if you're going to see a big pump or rise in prices, more likely the gold to silver ratio will narrow as well, like it did in 1980 and 2011. So that would be my strategy. I'm not at a point where I want to liquidate any of my precious metals right now. And as a collector, there's a lot of silver that I would definitely keep just because I think it's cool.
We got a question from Eric.
Okay, let's see here. Eric, yes. This is a question for you from Eric, if I'm reading the same one you're reading.
Salivate Metal gave me a blue wrench. Why don't you let me have one here? I don't know what a blue wrench is, Salivate. What is a blue wrench, Eric?
That is the ability to have him as a moderator on your live stream. So if you click on those three buttons there to the left, you'll to the right, I'm sorry, you will be able to make him a moderator.
Now, what is the advantage of making Eric a moderator?
That means he can kill any spammers that come on, and he can and he will elevate his status to resident bouncer of your live streams. Yes, indeed.
All right. What else do we got?
Let's see here. Smaulgld, what does Sal think of Lewis's impersonation of? I like his impersonation of me. I wish I could do an impersonation of Smaulgld's impersonation of me. I can't even. That would be really cool.
I express a multitude of gratitude.
Oh, yes, indeed.
Yes, indeed.
All is one now says, there are rumors going around that the gig last night was at a gay bar. Well, everybody was very happy there. It was, but it wasn't quite as happy as it was during the gay 1890s, which is known as the gay 90s. But everybody was very, very happy there. So, yes, indeed.
Lewis, can you talk like Sal for the remainder of the show? Okay, I will. Yes,
Q.
indeed. Q.
Esper Hunter, discuss QE4. Wow, that's an open topic. There's this talk of tightening, but Smaulgld, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but when I think of quantitative tightening, I'm thinking of just a turning back the spigot a bit, but they're still pouring out and digitizing a lot of C notes. How are you gonna continue my voice and answer that? That's gonna be hard to do. You may not be able to do it.
It's hard to think and talk like Sal at the same time.
That's why my channel is so dumbed down, and your channel has got all the the good analysis.
You know, the funny thing is, I just realized that Sal I do a lot of interpretations, and when I do them, impressions, I get into character, but I can't get into your character for some reason.
Because there's not much to me. That's why I'm dense. I'm very dense, like platinum.
Platinum, that's a good point. You know, platinum is a very dense metal. That's why it's very hard to to counterfeit. Gold is easier to counterfeit because it has the same, very similar density to tungsten.
Yeah. But tungsten is a very hard metal too. It's a very hard and brittle metal. So when they do tungsten, they have to really be careful with how, because you can't just strike tungsten like you can. You have to, the way they do gold eagles is they machine out a rough shape of the relief, and then they coat it with gold, enough gold that they can strike the impression on the gold that's plating it or coating it, really.
Greetings, one and all, to all members of the Salivation Nation. Okay, Smaulgld, what is your favorite heavy metal band? That's a tough one. It depends on what you call heavy metal. Do you count Iron Maiden, Metallica as heavy metal?
Yes.
All right. Well, if so, I'll go with those then. We'll have to ask you the same question, Sal. And be
I'm like, man, it's tough to say. It's like asking me what my favorite silver and gold coin designs are. There's so many great ones out there, but it's very difficult. I like there's a death metal band called Dying Fetus from Maryland. I know the name. I really hate the name because I'm very pro-life, but they're a great death metal band out there. But there's also, let's see, Sanctuary was an old band. The singer's recently passed away. I love that band. Arch Enemy, Iced Earth. There's so many out there. But with Colonic Stacker is a unique individual. He always comes on my live streams and gives me MMA matchups between obscure heavy metal musicians and prominent politicians. So, for instance, he'll have now recently elected Senator Mitt Romney versus Bruce Dickinson from Iron Maiden. Who would win in an MMA matchup between those two? They both have great hair. So I don't know.
Well, Donald wants to know, who the heck is that horrible sounding guy you have on? I don't know.
Oh.
He's somebody who's supposed to tell the truth, and so far he's 0 for 3.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. What else do we got here? This is a Smaulgld Maple Hedgehog. If the U.S. dollar gets weak, will the price of silver go up in my Canadian dollars? Well, you know what? I have a special treat for you. I'm going to pull it out and, well, no, that doesn't sound right. Sounds like what Jim Morrison said before he got arrested.
Right.
I'm going to pull out the silver in Canadian currency as a special treat for you, and you're going to see. The Canadian, it depends on what happens to the Canadian dollar versus the U.S. dollar. A lot of people, they miss the fact that gold, they always price it in dollars, but in many currencies, gold has gone up for years in domestic currencies like Turkish lira, Russian ruble, Argentine peso, something we talk about all the time. But let me
the Bolivar in Venezuela. It's
absolutely.
A little bit high there too.
But even in other currencies, Sal, so we're going to pull up the Canadian dollar, and I'm going to show the Canadian dollar versus silver, and then I'm also going to show the Canadian dollar versus gold. And you're going to see that because the Canadian dollar, when it has some weakness, that gold does very well against the Canadian dollar. Let me pull it up for you right now.
And when you do the rest of this, do it in Bernie Sanders' voice, because we know you do a really good Bernie Sanders. ASMR people wants that.
All right. All right, I can actually get into character for that, and that's pretty easy. So we're going to look at the Canadian dollar versus the gold. The 1% like to have the gold, and the rich people have all the gold, and the regular people, they can't get any. So we're going to make sure that we have lines at the coin shops so everybody can line up and get themselves some gold. All right, now let's take a look at the Canadian dollar versus gold. Canadian dollar. Just give me a couple of seconds here because I'm having a little technical difficulty. Dollar versus gold. Bingo star.
He does a great Bernie impression. I've heard it before too. It's awesome.
Bernie Sanders. Yeah, the 1% in this country. All right, here's the Canadian dollar. They're our neighbors to the north. I really like that guy, Justin Trudeau. All right.
That's right.
All right, so you can see here the number that you have is $1,760. If you look at the chart, and I like to look at charts because charts tell you a lot of things. They tell you, for example, that there's a chart here, and and if you look at a chart, that'll tell you how much people have that they shouldn't own, because the 1% in this country got all the wealth, and in Canada they got all the gold, and you can see the price of the gold has gone up in Canadian dollars.
But you know what? There is a shortage of in Vermont, and that's combs, because Bernie Sanders always looks so disheveled. If he'd only comb his hair, you know.
I don't like these ad hominem attacks because, especially from somebody who can't even speak English the right way, when he gets on a channel and he starts talking about silver. What is silver? Silver is only cheap gold.
Well, would you rather have an ad hominem attack?
Homina, homina, homina,
Homina, or a hummus attack. There you go.
All right, silver versus Canadian dollars. We're going to take a look at that now. Now, if you notice, hold on. You notice that the price of the gold has gone up versus the Canadian dollar. It's not the same thing versus the silver. Now, a lot of Democrats used to like silver. I used to be a Democrat, but then I decided when Hillary Clinton beat me that I wasn't going to be a Democrat anymore. So I decided to look at the silver versus the Canadian dollar. Here it is. Well, that's not too good, because in Canadian dollars, it's nowhere near the all-time high, because silver in 2016 looks like it went up to $27. So I don't like this chart, so I'm going to get rid of it. And I'm going to put an 80% tax on it, and if you don't like that, I'm going to put a 90% tax on it.
There you go. And then spread it around, spread the wealth around. You got to do that a little bit too.
That's right. So,
all right.
Are there any other questions? Or can we let this freeloading guest of mine off the show?
That's right. Yeah. Well, very good.
Is that it? We got any more questions?
We'll take maybe two more, and then I actually got a bolt. What is the term? There's bolt, there's bounce, there's spring, or I don't know. There's a couple different ways to say you got to skedaddle. I said, Bozo, Smaulgld, what do you say about all the miners and big dealers using paper metals for hedging purposes?
Well, that's what they do.
Yeah.
That's what the 1% does. They play all types of games with the money.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. Oh, man.
All right. Well, I guess I got to let you go, Salivate Metal. I really want to express a multitude of gratitude for coming on the show tonight. Any final words for our YSL on this show? She's really not happy with this, nor is Donald.
Terry Rabideau. Oh, that's Terry Rabideau style, but my final thoughts are that for this particular broadcast is I want to extend a multitude of gratitude to you for having me on and for the great discussion. And for those of you joining from my channel, I encourage you to subscribe to Smaulgld for the technical analysis, and especially with all the data compilation with imports. And I've mentioned your name on live streams and other videos before, but I can't say it enough that we really appreciate all you do and all the data that you bring together and the reasoned analysis on the data. Because I always look at it this way: gold and silver, they sell themselves. All we do is just present the data as to how we interpret it. And yes, and we can also present our opinion. Like, for instance, I was a little bit bullish on silver last year. It didn't get that high. And I'm still bullish on it this year. But nonetheless, regardless, it's just going to do well. In the long term, silver is going to perform as it always has. It's going to be that hedge. It's going to be that protection. It's going to protect us from the dollar devaluation, which occurs every single year. And gold, obviously, as well. Gold is the ultimate safe haven, in my view. Silver is a safe haven, but the ultimate safe haven is gold because it's less volatile, and people treasure it, and people hold it. And but I love all the metals, hence why the channel is called Salivate Metal, because I'll even talk about platinum, palladium, rhodium, iridium, and nickel. Hey.
All right, Sal. Well, thank you very much, but you did forget the most important asset that we can possibly own as we prepare for what's coming, and that is mugs. So I want to thank you, yes, Sal, for joining us, but please stay tuned and listen to 18 reasons why you should buy and hoard mugs. Thanks, everyone, and have a good night.
Thank you.
Ten reasons why you should buy a Smaulgld mug. Reasons to buy and hoard mugs. Number 1. Mugs have been used for drinking for more than 5,000 years. Number 2. They are finding more uses for mugs every day. Number 3, we could not live our lives without mugs. Number 4, the Russians and Chinese are buying mugs hand over fist. Number 5, mugs are made in China. Number 6, mugs are hard assets. Number 7, mugs are real wealth. Number 8, mugs cannot go to zero. Number 9, mugs are portable. Number 10, mugs are drinking vessels, period. Wait, there is more. You can mix Mountain House in a mug. You can carry your barter silver in a mug. You can do many things with mugs that you cannot do with fiat currencies. Measure your wealth in mugs. They have mugs at the offices of JP Morgan and central banks. That is all you need to know. When the excrement hits the fan, you'll want to have your Smaulgld mug close by. Buy your Smaulgld mugs today. Reasons to buy and hoard mugs. Number 11. You can stack mugs. As you can see here, mugs are stackable. Add to your mug stack today. Buy a Smaulgld mug. Reasons to buy and hoard mugs. Number 12. You can put coffee in a mug. As you can see here, someone very clever has done so. Buy a Smaulgld mug today. Reasons to buy and hoard mugs. Number 13. You can put cognac in a mug. As you can see here, someone is thinking of putting cognac in a mug. Buy a Smaulgld mug today. Reasons to buy and hoard mugs. Number 14. You can display a mug on a studio soundboard. As you can see here, someone has displayed a mug on a studio soundboard. This highlights how versatile mugs can be. Mugs can be put in countless places, and we intend to show you as many of those places as possible. Buy a Smaulgld mug today. Reasons to buy and hoard mugs. Number 15. Mugs do not require electricity. As Smaulgld subscriber Wild Bill points out, mugs will still be usable after an EMP. Mugs do not require electricity. Here is a picture of a Smaulgld mug and another Smaulgld mug. They will look the same before and after an EMP and never require electricity. Buy a Smaulgld mug today. Reasons to buy and hoard mugs. Number 16. Mugs are undervalued. The price of mugs is about the same price as it was 10 years ago. This means that mugs are one of the most undervalued assets on the planet. Buy a Smaulgld mug today. Reasons to buy and hoard mugs. Number 17. You can hold your keys in a mug. Keys are very important. You can hold your keys in a mug. As you can see here, someone has put their keys in a mug. Buy a Smaulgld mug. Reasons to buy and hold mugs. Number 18. You can defend yourself with a mug. Mugs make great defensive weapons. In many states, you can open carry mugs. In all states, you can conceal carry mugs. Protect yourself with a mug. Buy a Smaulgld mug today.